Athena's greatest victory began with a single whisper: "Brother, your rage is your weakness." What followed was a trap only the goddess of strategy could design, a shield that turned Ares' wrath into his downfall. But victory came at a price even she couldn't foresee. The whispers started subtly, weaving through the halls of Olympus, carried on winds that howled with the cries of the slain. This wasn't a battle fought with honor, but a brutal display of power, leaving devastation in its wake. A crimson tide of blood rose across the lands, mirroring the growing frustration within Athena. The battlefield reeked of blood and burnt flesh. Clad in gleaming armor, Athena stood motionless amidst the carnage, the screams echoing in her mind, a symphony of mortal suffering orchestrated by Ares. Her normally serene face was etched with frustration. The unchecked wars waged by the god of war tore apart the mortal realms, lands she was sworn to protect. Mortals, Zeus's cherished creations, suffered under Ares' insatiable hunger for conflict. The fields were filled with the wounded and dying. Athena walked among them, her sandals stained with blood, her divine senses overwhelmed by the scale of suffering. Each gasp, each prayer, was a testament to Ares' cruelty and a challenge to her principles. She believed in strategic warfare, in calculated moves that minimized casualties and secured lasting peace. Ares, however, knew only annihilation. Elsewhere, Ares reveled in the chaos. He stood atop a mound of corpses, his bronze armor splattered crimson. To his lieutenant, Phobos, the god's eyes burned with manic glee. "Mortals need war," he bellowed, his voice silencing the cries of the dying. "It's the only truth they understand. Their pathetic lives are meaningless without the thrill of battle, the taste of fear." He swung his enormous sword, cleaving the air with savage delight. Phobos, the embodiment of fear, cowered beside Ares, reveling in his master's bloodlust. He thrived on the screams, the terror, the despair. But even Phobos couldn't ignore the unease flickering in the eyes of the surrounding soldiers. They were fueled by Ares' power, but also by a fear that was slowly turning into resentment. The cost of Ares' victories was always paid in mortal lives, and even the most battle-hardened warriors eventually questioned the price of such unending carnage. Athena knew she had to act. Ares' endless warmongering threatened to unravel the delicate balance of the world. Direct confrontation was futile. Ares thrived on conflict, and brute force was his domain. She needed a different approach, a strategy that exploited Ares' arrogance, turning his strength against him. Finesse and deception were her only weapons. Ares, believing himself invincible, a force of nature beyond restraint, possessed an arrogance that would be his downfall. Athena considered every possibility, seeking the chink in his armor, the weakness she could exploit to end his reign of terror. The solution, she realized, wouldn't be found on any battlefield, but at the very heart of creation. With grim determination, Athena left the battlefield and descended to the fiery depths of Hephaestus' forge. Heat shimmered in the air, and the clang of hammer on metal echoed through the cavernous space. Hephaestus, the smith god, toiled tirelessly at his anvil, sweat streaking his soot-stained face. The forge pulsed with raw power. Sparks flew like miniature stars. Though physically flawed, Hephaestus was a master craftsman, capable of shaping metal into objects of unimaginable beauty and terrifying power. His creations were legendary, sought after by gods and mortals alike, but he was also wary, burdened by past encounters with the volatile gods of Olympus. Athena approached, her voice resonating with purpose. "Hephaestus, I require your skill for a task of utmost importance. Can a shield be made not to block rage, but to harness it?" Hephaestus paused, hammer suspended. "Harness rage?" he questioned, brow furrowed. "Such a thing is dangerous, Athena. Rage is destructive, best left untamed." He wiped his brow with a blackened forearm. "What purpose could such a shield serve other than to amplify the chaos you seek to quell?" Memories of Ares' contempt flashed through his mind. The god of war had never shown him respect, only scorned for his crippled form and dedication to craft. The thought of aiding Ares, even indirectly, filled him with dread. Hephaestus paused, hammer raised. Turning to Athena, concern etched his brow, he asked, "Harness rage? Against whom?" He knew Ares's destructive appetite intimately. The clash of steel, dying screams, the stench of burning flesh. Ares reveled in it, a stark contrast to Hephaestus's creations, meant for beauty and utility, not annihilation. The forge god preferred creation to conflict, craftsmanship to carnage. Aiding Ares's warmongering churned his stomach. Athena's gaze hardened. Against Ares. His wars threatened to consume everything. Hephaestus hesitated, haunted by memories of Ares's cruelty. The god of war was infamous for his brutal temper. If he discovers this trickery, he'll reduce my forge to rubble, make me regret ever laying eyes on it. One incident burned in his memory, a feast on Olympus where Ares, fueled by ambrosia and arrogance, mocked Hephaestus limp, a constant reminder of his fall. The others had laughed. Hephaestus never forgot the humiliation. He held no love for Ares. Yet, he respected Athena's wisdom, even her unconventional plans. Athena approached, placing a reassuring hand on his arm. "He won't discover anything if we are careful. I will ensure it. Think of it as a demonstration of his power." I'll whisper in his ear, stoking his ego, suggesting this shield would make him untouchable, invincible, untouchable even by me. Athena continued, a glint in her eye. Imagine Hephaestus, a shield that anticipates every blow, turning strength against itself, a weapon so perfectly suited to Ares. He'll believe he conceived it himself. She knew Ares' weakness was vanity. He craved admiration, feared being outmatched. Athena was a master at exploiting those insecurities. It was a gamble, but one she'd take. The fate of mortals and gods might depend on it. A flicker of interest ignited in Hephaestus' eyes. He remembered the Trojan War, Ares openly mocking Athena's strategies. He saw a chance for revenge, a chance to humble the arrogant god, who saw weapons as mere extensions of his rage, instruments of destruction to be wielded without thought. He, on the other hand, poured his soul into every creation. Athena continued, painting a picture of unparalleled power, twisting Ares' victories into a narrative of untapped potential, reminding him of the glory he deserved, the fear he should inspire. She emphasized how the shield would amplify his strength, ensuring his reign as the undisputed master of war. A vision flashed through her mind. The Trojan War, Ares charging blindly into the fray, while she directed her champions with calculated precision. She reminded Hephaestus of the time Ares had destroyed his finest chariot in a fit of pique. The countless insults, the endless taunts. "This isn't just about stopping Ares," Athena said softly. "It's about teaching him a lesson he won't soon forget." Hephaestus considered her words. The idea of humbling Ares, of exposing his arrogance, was undeniably appealing. "What did you have in mind?" he asked, curiosity piqued. Blood, sweat, a piece of his very being. The opportunity to retaliate for Ares' many offenses was too tempting to resist. Hephaestus, his reservations fading, began to see the potential in Athena's plan. Athena turned toward a nearby brazier, where flames danced with infernal energy. "He awaits." Ares' war tent reeked of blood and sweat, a testament to his insatiable appetite for battle. Hephaestus felt a pang of unease, a primal fear of the god whose very presence exuded violence. But he pushed it aside. Ares stood ready, radiating impatience and bloodlust. With an obsidian blade, he slashed a deep gash across his forearm. Crimson blood dripped into a crucible of molten ore. As blood mingled with metal, the forge pulsed with crimson light. The molten ore bubbled and churned, mirroring the chaos in Ares' heart. The heat intensified, forcing Hephaestus to shield his eyes as sparks flew. Ares, oblivious to the potential consequences, seemed blinded by his hunger for power. "Let this metal thirst for battle!" Ares chanted, his voice echoing through the forge. "Let it amplify my rage! Let it crush my enemies!" The shield rested, cooling, its surface a mesmerizing dance of red and black. Ares reached out, his thick fingers tracing the sharp edges. It felt different. more alive than any weapon he'd ever held. He circled it, his calloused hand running along the rim. The metal pulsed with a strange warmth, almost sentient. The very essence of war seemed captured, distilled into this single object, a feeling usually reserved for the thick of battle. This felt contained, focused, potent. Hephaestus truly outdid himself. Ares rumbled, mostly to himself. Yet, the question lingered. What was Athena's angle? He hefted the shield, testing its balance. Perfect, but a nagging doubt persisted. He turned to Athena, eyes narrowed. Why give me this, sister? You've never bowed to my strength, never offered aid without a price. His suspicion was well earned. Their history was a tapestry of conflict, strategic clashes where her tactical brilliance blunted his raw power. The Trojan War was a constant reminder. She guided the Greeks, subtly manipulating events to ensure their victory, while he, bound by fate, watched his Trojan champions fall. He couldn't shake the feeling that this unprecedented gift was simply the prelude to another, more elaborate scheme. Athena met his gaze. Her expression serene, yet a subtle tremor betrayed her. A rare sign of fear, quickly masked. Is it so hard to believe I desire peace, brother? This shield is a truce, a symbol of our shared dominion. With it, you can control the battlefield, end wars swiftly, decisively. Her voice was steady, betraying no hint of deception, but Ares knew better than to trust appearances, especially when dealing with the goddess of wisdom. He knew her carefully constructed facade often masked a mind constantly calculating, always strategizing, even in apparent peace. He remembered countless times when her words seemed harmless, but her actions proved otherwise. Ares scoffed. Peace. That word is foreign to you, Athena. You crave strategy, not serenity. He circled her, suspicion growing. What game are you playing? A game, Ares. You wound me, she said, her tone laced with mock offense. Can't you accept a gesture of goodwill from your own sister? Perhaps I've grown wary of our endless squabbles, the constant bickering echoing through Olympus. Surely even a war god can appreciate cooperation. She paused, letting the word hang, knowing its weight in their strained relationship. Athena forced a smile. No game, Ares. Only a desire for balance. You are strength, I am wisdom. Together we can rule Olympus. He stopped circling, his gaze fixed on her. Rule Olympus together. An amusing thought, sister. But power is not shared, it is seized. And I intend to seize it all. Ares ran a thumb across the shield's crimson face, the metal reflecting in his eyes. But first, let's see what this balance of yours can truly do. Still unconvinced, he declared. Then let us test this truce. He strode out of the forge, Athena following. He needed to witness the shield's power unleashed firsthand, to ascertain whether Athena's gesture was genuine or a cleverly disguised trap. He wouldn't rely on her words, he needed proof. They arrived at a coastal village, its inhabitants unaware of the divine drama unfolding. Ares raised the shield and channeled a fraction of his fury. A wave of energy threatened to obliterate the village, but the shield reacted, absorbing and redirecting the blast harmlessly into the sea. The villagers remained untouched. A predatory gleam ignited in Ares' eyes. This shield, regardless of its origin, was a weapon of immense power, and he knew exactly how to wield it. He envisioned the carnage, the victories, the crushed empires, all with this magnificent shield at his side. Possibilities flooded his mind. Very well, sister, he said, lowering the shield. Your truce is accepted for now. Intriguing, he murmured, a wide grin spreading across his face, his eyes gleaming with newfound power. It seems your truce has teeth after all. He remained blind to the relief that washed over Athena and the lingering doubt in her eyes. The seed of her gambit had been planted, and it was beginning to sprout. But at what cost? Athena hurried to Zeus, her face a mask of worry. The weight of her deception threatened to suffocate her. Father, she confessed, I've ignited a fuse that could incinerate Olympus. Ares believes this shield grants him ultimate power, blind to the fact it will turn his own rage against him. She understood the inherent risks of deceiving a god, especially one as volatile as Ares. Yet, allowing his endless wars to ravage the mortal realm remained unthinkable. She conjured images of innocent faces caught in the crossfire, of burning villages and shattered lives, a burden she, the goddess of wisdom, felt compelled to bear. Fate was a tapestry woven with light and shadow, demanding difficult choices to maintain balance. Zeus remained impassive on his throne, lightning crackling around him, mirroring his turbulent mood. You interfered, Athena. You dared manipulate a god's very essence, knowing the consequences. Zeus thundered, "The gods are bound by ancient laws. You cannot circumvent them simply because you deem it necessary." Ares vows war. To deny him, that is to deny a fundamental aspect of the cosmos. "I acted to stop his senseless slaughter," Athena pleaded. "The mortal realms are drowning in blood. I had to intervene. Is the cosmos more important than the lives within it?" Athena countered, desperation lacing her voice. "Are we merely to stand by as mortals suffer for our amusement? I refuse to accept such a fate. If the gods won't act, then I must." Zeus' eyes flashed. "And now, what have you unleashed? You've given him a weapon of unimaginable power, one he believes is his own. Pray your strategy outpaces the flames." He dismissed her with a wave. Olympus will watch with great interest. His words hung heavy, a grim prophecy chilling Athena. She knew Zeus held little regard for mortals, viewing them as playthings, but even he recognized the potential fallout. Should Ares discover her deception, his wrath would engulf Olympus, dwarfing mortal conflicts into mere skirmishes. Athena departed, her mind racing, desperately seeking a way to control the volatile situation she had created. The fate of Olympus, perhaps the world, rested on her shoulders. Meanwhile, on the plains of Marathon, Ares mustered his armies. Thousands of soldiers stood ready, their armor gleaming under the sun. He raised the shield high, its crimson surface pulsing with dark energy. "Tonight," he roared, his voice echoing across the battlefield, "Athena's gift will drown Greece in blood. We will show them the true meaning of war. We will crush their cities, enslave their people, and leave nothing but ashes." Ares bellowed, his voice a hammer blow against the assembled ranks. The sun glinted off polished bronze, banners snapping in the wind, a testament to his growing dominion. Ares surveyed his troops, predatory satisfaction twisting his features. He was the god of war, and this, his domain. Let mortals tremble, let the world burn in his glory. He gripped the shield, power thrumming against his palm. Never had he felt so invincible, so close to ultimate domination. The troops roared, their bloodlust a mirror of Ares' own. They surged forward, a tide of destruction poised to engulf Greece. But as they advanced, a strange hum emanated from the shield. A low, guttural frequency resonated deep within their bones, a subtle discord that sowed unease. Some clutched their heads, fighting a rising tide of confusion. Others twitched, eyes darting. A few even dropped their weapons. The shield seemed to whisper, using Ares' own voice, twisting his words, amplifying his darkest desires: destroy, conquer, burn. The soldiers' eyes glazed over, faces contorted with savage intensity. Unbeknownst to Ares, the trap had sprung. The shield was awakening. The true battle had only just begun, twisting loyalty into unbridled rage. They saw enemies where there were none, betrayal in every shadow. Camaraderie dissolved into suspicion and hatred. Brothers turned against brothers, friends against friends. The shield had planted the seeds of chaos, and they were about to bloom in a horrifying display of self-destruction. The battle that was about to begin was not the one Ares had planned. The battle commenced as Ares had envisioned, a brutal collision of steel and flesh. His armies charged, a relentless wave poised to break against the meager Athenian defenses. Yet, something was amiss. The Athenian line stood virtually unarmed, a chilling detail lost on Ares, blinded by his lust for carnage. He saw only cowards ripe for slaughter, his hubris obscuring a strategic oversight that even a novice commander would have recognized. The Athenian line remained a steadfast, silent wall against the tide of aggression. Ares, perched atop his war chariot, surveyed the scene with unrestrained glee, anticipating imminent victory, the crunch of bone and rivers of blood soon to stain the plains of Marathon. He bellowed the order to crush the Athenian line, but as the first ranks collided, a discordant note echoed through the air, a subtle hum emanating from the seemingly impenetrable shield, a frequency detectable only by the most attuned warriors, a vibration resonating deep within their souls. Then, the shield awakened fully. It didn't merely reflect Ares' power, it absorbed his war cry, his rage, his very essence, and amplified it 1,000-fold. The effect was immediate and horrifying. Ares' soldiers, once unified, began to falter, their eyes glowing with an unnatural crimson light, mirroring the shield's pulsating core. The shield became a conduit, channeling the darkest aspects of Ares' nature and broadcasting them into the minds of his soldiers. It preyed on insecurities, hidden resentments, suppressed desires for violence, whispering promises of power dominance, and the intoxicating pleasure of inflicting pain. Some resisted, their training and loyalty momentarily holding firm, but the shield's influence was insidious, a subtle poison eroding their resolve. It twisted Ares' battle commands into savage, primal urges. The soldiers no longer heard their generals, they heard only the shield, a voice driving them toward absolute destruction. Whispers coalesced into distinct voices, tailored to each soldier's deepest fears and angers. One heard the taunts of a childhood bully, magnified into an unbearable roar. Another relived the sting of a past betrayal. The desire for revenge reignited with terrifying intensity. A third succumbed to a primal lust for power, envisioning himself a conquering hero atop a mountain of corpses. The shield manipulated them all, turning inner demons into weapons of mass destruction. The unity of Ares' army crumbled, replaced by a seething mass of individual hatreds and ambitions. Chaos erupted within Ares' own ranks as soldiers, consumed by amplified rage, turned on each other. Friends became enemies, brothers became butchers. The battlefield transformed into a maelstrom of self-inflicted violence, a horrifying spectacle of brother against brother, driven by the shield's dark magic. The fighting devolved into a brutal, chaotic mess devoid of strategy. Soldiers hacked at anyone within reach, faces twisted in rage. Unit cohesion shattered as men settled old scores and fought for dominance. The ground became slick with blood, a testament to the shield's corruption. Screams filled the air, mingling with the clang of steel and the guttural roars of the maddened. Ares' carefully laid war plan had become a barbaric free, for all, a horrifying reflection of his own inner turmoil. From afar, Athena watched, her face pale. "I only meant to stop him," she whispered, her voice lost in the din. "I never intended this. I only wanted to contain his rage, not this." The shield's power spiraled, exceeding her calculations. War turned against itself, consuming all. The goddess of wisdom had unleashed a force she couldn't control. The battlefield, once a stage for Hera's glory, was now a monument to her catastrophic miscalculation. Her vision blurred, a grotesque parody of the glorious battles she strived to orchestrate. She sought order in chaos, a calculated victory, but instead unleashed madness, a fire threatening to extinguish all she held dear. The shield wasn't just amplifying Ares' rage, it magnified the inherent darkness within every mortal soul. War wasn't only gods and strategies, it was the choices individuals made when facing fear and violence, choices the shield now stripped away, leaving only raw instinct. Her grand design, meant to bring order, unleashed unimaginable chaos, threatening not just Greece, but perhaps even Olympus. The cries of the wounded pierced her ears, each a condemnation of her arrogance. The weight of her mistake threatened to crush her. Ares, the horrific truth crashing down upon him, roared in fury. He lunged to shatter the shield, to silence the maddening whispers tearing his army asunder. But the moment his hands grasped the metal, it seared his flesh, burning him with the amplified force of his own rage. He recoiled, clutching his scorched hands, the taste of betrayal bitter on his tongue. "What have you done, sister?" he bellowed at the heavens, his voice a raw blend of fury and disbelief. The scream echoed across the battlefield, a primal sound of wounded pride. He staggered back, the shield's crimson energy clinging to him, leeching away his divine strength. Ares, god of war, brought low by a weapon of his own making, twisted by the very sister he sought to dominate. His legions, once unified in their bloodlust, now fractured, their savage instincts amplified to an uncontrollable degree. The scent of their own blood filled the air, eclipsing even the glory of battle he so craved. He looked upon the carnage and saw not victory, but a grotesque mockery of war's purpose. The devastation radiated outwards, corrupting the very land. Villages miles away were crushed under the weight of the amplified rage, buildings crumbling and fields burning. The mortal toll was catastrophic, a horrifying testament to the gods' reckless games. The earth itself seemed to recoil from the unleashed power. Rivers ran red, tainted by the blood of countless warriors. Trees withered, their leaves turning to ash in the unnatural heat. The sky churned with dark energy, a swirling vortex mirroring the chaos below as animals fled in terror, their instincts screaming of an unnatural cataclysm. This was not merely a battle, but an unraveling, a descent into madness fueled by divine ambition and deceit. Whispers carried on the wind, twisting prayers into curses, hope into despair. A priestess from a nearby village, her face streaked with dirt and tears, approached Athena, her voice cracking. "You promised us protection, goddess! You swore to defend us! But this is madness! What have you done?" Her pleas were lost amidst the din, drowned out by the screams of the dying and the thunderous clash of steel. Athena could only watch in horror as her plans spiraled out of control, the consequences far exceeding her vision. The faces of the innocent haunted her, their accusing eyes burning into her soul. Was this victory? Was this wisdom? All around, she saw only destruction, a testament to the devastating power of unchecked rage, even when manipulated with the best intentions. She had sought to control the storm, but had become its unwilling instrument. Just as the carnage reached its peak, a blinding light filled the sky. The thunder of Zeus cracked across the land, shaking even Olympus. "No!" The king of the gods boomed, his voice a physical force slamming into the battlefield. "This petty feud ends now! You have both overstepped your bounds." Silence fell, momentarily silencing the cacophony of war. The sky split, revealing glimpses of the celestial realm and the consequences of defying divine authority. Zeus's gaze, blazing with disappointment, settled upon Athena and Ares. He had always favored Athena's intellect, but her arrogance had blinded her. Ares, for all his strength, had proven a simple pawn, manipulated by his own bloodlust. But even Zeus's intervention couldn't immediately quell the shield's destructive power. The crimson glow persisted, the whispers continued, and rage burned in the hearts of those ensnared. The damage was done. Could anything truly halt the storm Athena had unleashed? The shield pulsed with malevolent energy, a constant reminder of divine deceit. Even as Zeus's command lingered, the shield's influence refused to dissipate, a festering wound upon reality. Warriors, locked in their blood, fueled frenzy, fought on, ignoring cries of the wounded and pleas for mercy. The land itself seemed corrupted, the very air thick with malice. Athena's carefully crafted strategy had become a nightmare, a testament to the unpredictable nature of power and the devastating consequences of divine interference. The fate of Greece hung precariously in the balance, threatened by the very forces meant to protect it. Hephaestus, his face etched with sorrow, approached the remnants of the shield. By order of Zeus, he was to destroy it. Tears streamed down the smith god's face as he stoked his forge, the heat rising to a level that could melt even divine metal. This shield, he lamented, its very core was interwoven with Hera's soul. To destroy it is to diminish him. Slowly, agonizingly, the shield liquefied, its crimson light fading to dull, gray slag. Hephaestus knew a part of Hera's. The raw, unbridled fury that defined him was being extinguished. It was more than a physical act. It was symbolic erasure. Though compelled to obey Zeus, Hephaestus imbued the process with mourning. He channeled not only the forge's heat, but also the heavy weight of divine regret. Each hammer blow against the softening metal echoed with sorrow for the unintended consequences, a lament for the lives caught in the crossfire of godly ambitions. He whispered apologies to the remnants of Ares, essence trapped within, acknowledging the tragic irony of a weapon meant for protection becoming an instrument of destruction. The molten metal flowed like tears, carrying away the tainted power that had nearly shattered Olympus. Stripped of his power and humiliated, the once mighty god of war fled Olympus, seeking refuge in the wild, untamed lands of Thrace, a region as brutal and unforgiving as his own heart. Before disappearing into the shadows, he cast a venomous glare toward Olympus, a low, guttural growl escaping his lips. "This isn't over, Athena. You will pay for this humiliation." His departure marked a profound alteration in his being. The shield, for all its deceitful nature, had been a conduit for his divine essence. Without it, Ares was diminished. His connection to war and bloodshed weakened, though not entirely severed. The shadows of Thrace were a shroud, concealing wounded pride and a simmering desire for retribution. This exile was not penance, but a gathering of strength, a simmering resentment waiting to erupt. He was a wounded beast, dangerous and unpredictable, driven by a thirst for vengeance that would consume him, and perhaps all of Olympus. Athena's triumph, however, felt hollow. She had stopped Ares, but at what cost? The mortal realm was scarred, lives lost, and whispers of fear and resentment followed her. Across the ravaged lands, mortals began to rebuild. Shrines were erected to Athena, the savior, but the stories they told were laced with unease. "She saved us from Ares' wrath," they whispered, but at what cost? Was her wisdom worth such devastation? The victory was tainted, a stark reminder that even the most brilliant strategy could have unintended and catastrophic consequences. The cost of outsmarting a god, it seemed, was higher than anyone could have imagined. The seeds of doubt had been sown, germinating quickly in the fertile ground of mortal fear. While prayers still rose to Athena for protection, hushed warnings were also passed down, tales of a goddess whose brilliance could be as dangerous as the monsters she vanquished. The line between savior and destroyer blurred, leaving a lingering question etched into the foundations of their faith. Unquestioning belief eroded, replaced by a cautious reverence tinged with skepticism. The scent of burnt flesh and the cries of the injured lingered long after the battle. Though Athena subdued Ares, her methods left an indelible mark. Mortals questioned divine intervention, wondering if the cure was worse than the disease. Farmers stared at scorched fields, families mourned, and priests grappled with the reality that even gods were fallible. The shrines they built were testaments not just to Athena's power, but reminders of the day her strategy nearly obliterated them all. A victory shrouded in the ashes of near annihilation, a lesson etched in blood and sorrow. The very air whispered of the precarious balance between divine protection and unintended catastrophe. The tale of Athena's Gambit became a cautionary legend. Bards sang of the goddess's cunning, but with a note of warning. Philosophers debated the ethics of her actions, questioning if the ends justified the means. Even within Olympus, the gods regarded Athena with a mixture of admiration and apprehension, aware of her immense power and the potential consequences of her brilliance. The shield's destruction didn't erase the memory of its destructive power. It served as a constant reminder that even the best intentions could pave the road to ruin. Athena stood alone, gazing at her empty hands. They felt heavy, burdened by the weight of countless lives. Her victory over Ares offered no triumph, only a profound unease. "I used his rage against him," she murmured, her voice lost to the rustling leaves. "But does that make me any better? Have I become what I sought to defeat?" The cheers of Athenians felt like condemnation, each shout a reminder of the victory's price. The screams of the dying still haunted her, echoing in the halls of her mind, a constant reminder of the lives lost in her pursuit of peace. Had she truly brought balance, or merely shifted the scales of destruction? She remembered the cries of villagers, the burning fields, the terror in the eyes of soldiers turned against each other. Was this victory? Or had she simply replaced Ares' brute force with a more insidious destruction, born of cunning and deceit? The cheers rang hollow, stark against the silent screams within her. A hawk screeched overhead, circling, a lonely sentinel in the vast sky. Athena envied its freedom, its ability to soar above the conflicts of gods and men. She longed to shed the burden of her wisdom, to escape the endless calculations that defined her. But escape was impossible. She was Athena, goddess of wisdom, forever bound to the consequences of her choices. The silence shattered as Zeus descended from Olympus, his eyes cold and calculating. "You have proven that even gods can be outsmarted, Athena," he declared, his words echoing through the valleys. "But be warned. The next war will not be fought with shields and spears, but with mind, and the stakes will be higher than ever." Zeus vanished, leaving Athena to grapple with his chilling words. The age of brute force was waning. The age of manipulation and deception was dawning. His words were not a compliment, but a veiled threat. Zeus had always been wary of her intellect, her ability to challenge his authority with reason, not force. He saw a potential rival, a force that could unravel Olympus' established order. This wasn't merely about Hera's defeat, it was about the future of power itself, how it would be wielded, and by whom. Would cunning replace strength as the ultimate weapon? Would the gods descend into a new era of subtle warfare, where manipulation reigned? Athena knew, with chilling certainty, that the game had changed forever. The rules had irrevocably changed, the stakes immeasurably heightened. Athena's thoughts drifted to the Trojan War, a conflict shaped by her strategy, yet ending in ruin and devastating loss. Was this to be the future? A ceaseless cycle of manipulation and counter-manipulation, with mortals forever caught in the crossfire. And what of Ares? Stripped of his rage, he was a mere shadow, a wounded beast retreating to lick his wounds. But even a wounded god remained a potent threat. His humiliation would fester, breeding a new, colder malice, a calculating desire for revenge far more terrifying than his former outbursts. He was a force of nature, and nature always sought equilibrium, even through chaos. Deep beneath the ravaged earth, a shard of the shattered shield lay buried, pulsing faintly. It resonated with the last vestiges of Ares' rage and Athena's ambition. Darkness clung to it, amplifying its power, patiently waiting to rise again. Her fade to black, the final shot lingers on the buried shard, a reminder that the gods' game is never truly over. The earth remembers, absorbing the blood, the tears, the fury of gods and mortals. It holds onto the pain, the ambition, the lust for power. The shard served as a conduit, a focal point for all that had transpired, a silent witness to Athena's triumph and Hera's defeat. It knew the dark secret even the gods could not fully grasp, that victory and defeat were often two sides of the same coin, and the consequences of even the most well-intentioned actions could echo through eternity. The faint pulse intensified, a subtle vibration in the earth, a call to arms, a silent promise of vengeance and chaos. It whispered of broken oaths and shattered alliances, of a world consumed by endless conflict. The shard yearned for wholeness, to unleash Ares' full fury upon an unsuspecting world. It was a seed of discord, waiting to sprout, a stark reminder that even in victory, the seeds of destruction remain. The age of heroes may be over, but the age of shadows was just beginning. How the flicker within the earth intensifies, casting long, distorted shadows. The screen fades to black,